Another measure of spread is variance and standard deviation. Variance is the mean of the squared deviations. Squared deviations means that we're going to subtract each distance or each value from the mean and we square them. So notice here we take each value minus the mean and we square it. Then we're going to add those up and divide by how many we have. That's why it says the mean. That's the variance. Now the issue with the variance is we can't really use it. We have units that are squared, and so variance is really just a stepping stone for getting us to what we can use. We use the standard deviation, and for standard deviation we take the square root of the variance. So we calculate the variance and we take the square root of it. So when we're calculating the variance, the V, and the standard deviation, the S, first thing we have to do is we have to find the mean. Then we subtract the mean from each number and we square the differences. We add up all those squares, so those squared differences, and we divide by how many we had. The last step is we take the square root. Let's look at an example of this. So we have a very small data set here, ages of some cars. We've got 5 numbers. So our very first step is to find our mean. So we're going to add all 5 of these numbers up. So 9, 40, 8, 5, and 4. We add all those up, we get 66. And we divide by, not by 2, we divide by 5 because we have 5 numbers. And we divide and we get 13.2. That's our mean. Now if you look at the column headings here, the X is just the values that we have, individual values. So that's 9, 40, 8, 5, and 4. Then we take each of those values minus the mean. So I'm going to take 9 minus 13.2. I'll take 40 minus 13.2. 8 minus 13.2, 5 minus 13.2, and 4 minus 13.2. And I will get those values. So I will get a negative 4.2, a 26.8, negative 5.2, negative 8.2, and a negative 9.2. So we have taken each value and subtracted the mean from it. This is that deviation. How far is it deviating from the mean? Now we have to square each of those values. And you're going to notice that I'm putting this in parentheses. Because whenever I square a number, and I put it in my calculator, I need to make sure that I put it in parentheses so that I get a positive number back. Anytime you square a negative number, this is like saying negative 4.2 times a negative 4.2, I need to get a positive number back. If your calculator gives you a negative number, it's because you did not put it in parentheses. And notice right here, this shows to put it in parentheses. So then we get 26.8 squared is going to give us 718.24. A negative 5.2 squared will give us 27.04. A negative 8.2 squared will give us 67.24. and a negative 9.2 squared will give us an 84.64. Notice all of them are positive. This last column, everything needs to be positive. We add this column up. I'm going to add this column up. When I do, I get 914.8. So my standard deviation is going to be the square root of this 914.8 divided by, I'm going to divide by this exact same number that I divided my mean by, 5. Make sure that you do this division before you take the square root. So I do the division, I get 182.96, then I take the square root. So that means that whenever I take the square root, I get a number smaller than this, and that gives me that the standard deviation is 13.53. This is standard how far these are away from the mean. It's like an average of these deviations, how far these are away from the mean on average.